is a little bit tougher. Do you guys see the issue with this one? Anyone notice what's different about it compared to the other ones we've done? So example 3 here.
That's not.
Yeah, there's not a variable alone. So there's no variable that's like already solved for. So we need to do that in this problem. So we need to first get a variable alone. So I'm going to write a little note so you don't forget you need to do that. Now, we're probably not used to this, but I'm going to suggest that you get a variable alone that maybe you didn't want to get alone. Which variable looks easiest to get alone? The x. Do you guys see that? The x doesn't have anything being multiplied by it, so I'm going to solve for x because it's kind of the most simple to get alone. Does that make sense? If I chose to get y alone, I'd end up with fractions. And I know most of you guys would admit that you guys aren't a fan of fractions if we can avoid them. So I'm going to get this x alone in this top equation. So how do I get that alone? What do I do to get x alone there? How do I isolate x?
Plus 2y.
Yeah, we're going to move that 2y over. So I'm going to add 2y to each side. So my new equation becomes x equals, and I'll just write like 2y minus 3 if that's okay. You can do negative 3 plus 2y is fine, but you can do that there. So getting that equation that way makes it a little bit easier because we don't have too many steps to get a variable alone. Now that I know what x is, I can replace x in this other equation with what it equals. So this is where we want to use parentheses, and we're going to substitute that x in. So we have 3 parentheses. What is x equal? 2y minus 3. We're replacing x with that to finish this equation off. So we chose to get that x alone because it was easiest. You decided to work with decimals. It worked okay though?
Yeah.
So Justine worked ahead of us a little bit, and I had looked and she had used decimals, but we know how Kylie feels about decimals, so we avoid those to not upset her. So 6y minus 9. So I distributed there. I can combine my terms, so this 6y and the 5y is 11y. So I'm going to get y alone, I'm going to move that 9 over. And I end up finding out y is 3. Which is what you got. So again, if you want to avoid decimals, it helps, but you don't have to do it that way. It's okay if you don't. Then I have to go back and use that equation. Now the equation I'm going to use is the one that we got the x alone. You can use either of the two equations. I'm going to use this one though because x is already alone. So I'm going to put the y back into that. So I'm putting y back in here. Because now it becomes 6 minus 3, so x ends up being 3 as well. So we get 3 and 3 as our answer. All right, we're going to go to the last 2 questions, which if you worked ahead at all, these were special cases. So if you got stuck on them or you were frustrated with them, there's a reason for that. They're kind of special cases there. So I'll give you guys a minute to make sure you have this, and then we'll look at those last couple, and then you guys will have some time for homework. I dropped my watch today and cracked it. I'm sad. Cracking it. All right, so the next one I'm going to solve by substitution. But if you notice, both variables, actually the y is alone in both equations, which sometimes confuses students when y is, like both of the y's are alone. So it's okay for this to be the case. So in this problem, y is already alone. So that means I'm going to take what y is and replace it for the other y. So that's going to go in place of this y. So 2x plus 8 goes there, and then 2x minus 3. Does that make sense? If they both equal y, they have to equal each other. So now when I try to get x's together, we're going to subtract 2x, right? And I do that, actually they both cancel. And I end up with 8 equals negative 3. Do you guys remember what kind of solution that would be? That's a no solution problem, because that doesn't make sense. 8 does not equal negative 3. So this one's a no solution. And if you think about it, these two lines would be parallel. If I graph those would be parallel lines, and so they never intersect. There's no solution that works for these two. And then this last one we're going to solve by substitution. Similar to the problem we just did above, I'm going to get one of the variables alone. Which variable looks easiest to get alone? X in that top equation again. So I'm going to move this 2y over, like the same equation almost as the last one. So x equals 3 plus 2y, 2y plus 3, it doesn't really matter. So x is alone. So now I'm going to take this and substitute it in place of x. And you probably have guesses what this one's going to be, but we'll talk about what it looks like. So the 4y's are going to cancel. So we're going to be left with 6 equals 6. So then this one is the many solutions. So these actually end up being the same line if I were to graph them. So this one's infinitely many solutions. So all the points on that line would work. So your homework, you guys, the first half of it, or the first big chunk of it, is the solve by substitution. But these last two, I want you guys to do graphing. So you need at least 2 pieces of graph paper, or little squares of graph paper. If you need more, I have some more. But these are substitution. And then these are graphing. The directions say that, so hopefully you guys can follow that. But again, I have graph paper up here if you guys need it. Again, you only need 2 little squares of graph paper.